What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Oak Tree Football Channel, and welcome to another 2020 college football schedule breakdown and record prediction video. Today, I'll be doing the Miami Hurricanes. The Hurricanes went 6-7 last year, so nothing special, but it was not terrible either. And they play in the ACC Coastal, which is pretty good because obviously they are in the ACC, but they don't need to play in the same division as Clemson. But they do have some good competition in that division with teams like North Carolina and Virginia Tech. So it's going to be interesting to see if they finish with a good enough record to make the ACC championship. I think they will definitely be up there this year. They got transfer quarterback D'Eriq King from Houston. He didn't really play last year, but he was fantastic 2 years ago. He was really, really good. He's great as both a passer and a runner, so he could definitely be a good quarterback this year. It might hurt him with the limited practices, but later in the year, definitely, I think he can be a very good quarterback. And then on the defense, they have Gregory Rousseau, who, in my opinion, is one of the best defensive players in the entire country. And they had a really good recruiting class as well. So it should be a good season for Miami, in my opinion. So they went 6-7 last year, like I said, and they had the 13th best recruiting class in the country. So very, very good. Let's get into looking at their schedule. Week 1, they play Temple. I don't really see them having too much of a problem here. Temple isn't a terrible team, but they're not anything special either. I think Temple can be okay this year, but I just don't really see them contending with Miami, especially with Miami being the home team in this one. Maybe there will probably be some mistakes by D'Eriq King in this one just because he didn't really play last season. He's in a new scheme now, but I still do think that Miami's defense will be able to stop Temple's offense and get them the win. Week 2, they should have no problem here. It's against Wagner at home, no problem. That's an easy win for me. Week 3, they play UAB. UAB isn't terrible, but I don't think they'll really be able to compete with someone like Miami. I'm taking Miami there. So it's a pretty easy 3-0 start in my opinion. Maybe they drop the game to Temple, but I do think they will beat Wagner and UAB. But then their schedule starts to get more tough. They have to play at Michigan State. Michigan State will probably not be great this year, probably get a little worse, but I could see this being a tough game. We might actually see College Game Day going in this game because two pretty historic football teams. So it could be a pretty interesting game, and I kind of am leaning towards Michigan State at the moment just because Michigan State does still have talent. They are losing a lot. I know that. They are losing a lot of talent and their head coach. But I still do think they can be okay this year. Maybe make it back to a bowl game. Probably be close to a bowl game. I would say probably 6-6, 5-7. So this is going to be an interesting one. Michigan State is at home, which is huge for Miami. And there will probably be struggles from Michigan State early in the year. But there will also probably be struggles from Miami. We don't know if D'Eriq King will be able to be fantastic this week. We don't even know if he'll be able to be that good for the entire year. And I don't think if he's going to be good this year, it's more likely that it's towards the end of the season, probably after their bye week. So I could see some serious struggles for Miami in this game. You know, maybe their defense will be able to get it done for them, but this is an interesting one. With Michigan State being at home, there are many ways that this game could go, and it should actually be a very entertaining one. Week 5, they play Pitt. I don't think they should have too much of a challenge here. I don't think Pitt is terrible. I think Pitt should challenge in the ACC this year. Probably 7 wins, maybe 8. But I don't really see them contending with Miami. Maybe they can contend a bit because D'Eriq King isn't really playing how he would like to yet. But you know, Miami's at home. Miami has a good defense. I think it should be a pretty easy win for Miami. Pitt could give them a challenge, but I think it will be Miami. Week 6, it's a very interesting game. They're playing at Wake Forest. Wake Forest isn't really that good of a team, but they do have a pretty good quarterback. They are losing a lot, but they have Sam Hartman as their quarterback, who I think can be a pretty good quarterback this year. He's pretty underrated. So Wake Forest could maybe challenge here because they're at home. I do still think it should be Miami, but I could see Wake Forest actually giving them a pretty good challenge just because Wake Forest is at home, and Wake Forest does still have some talented players. Sure, they do have a lot of holes. They're losing a lot, and it will be a step back from last year in my opinion. But, you know, maybe Wake Forest can give Miami a challenge in this one. Week 7, they have a bye week, and this, in my opinion, this is the perfect place bye because they are about to go into a tough game, which I'll talk about in a second, and it splits their season in half. So this is just the perfect place bye week, in my opinion. You know, maybe Miami's even coming into this bye week undefeated, then they get their bye, and then they get to play the tough some of their more tough games. So it's a very well-placed bye, in my opinion. Week 8, they play North Carolina. This is going to be a tough one. This is one of their toughest games of the season, in my opinion. And I don't know if they can win, if I'm honest. North Carolina is going to be really good this year, in my opinion. They just have a lot of talent on that team all around, especially at the quarterback. They have Sam Howell. He could be a Heisman contender this season. They're pretty well coached. They were really good last year. We've seen them have some big steps up. 2 years ago they won like 2 games, and last year they won 7. So I think it'll be another step up this year for North Carolina. But Miami is the home team, and they're coming off a bye, which is what makes this game really, really interesting. It could go either way, if I'm honest. It could really, really go either way. You can make an argument for both sides, but at the moment I am leaning towards North Carolina. In my opinion, North Carolina is just too good of a team. I mean, like I said, it could be Miami. It could go either way, but I just think that North Carolina is too good, so I'm going to take North Carolina in this one. Week 9, another tough game on the road at Virginia. Virginia is a very interesting team because they're losing basically their entire offense. It's only one player, but he was very huge. He was huge for them last year, did almost everything. That was Bryce Perkins, of course. He was great as a rusher and as a passer. He is gone. Their defense was not fantastic last year. I expected to step up, but it's not going to be great. I do think Virginia will probably return to a bowl this season, but I don't know if they're going to be able to contend against Miami. I think D'Eriq King, Miami will have figured D'Eriq King out at this point in the year. So it's going to be an interesting one. Virginia is the home team, which is important for them, and Miami is coming off a very tough game. So I could see this game going to Virginia. It really could go either way. It's a very interesting one there in Week 9. Week 10, another very interesting one. At home again, but against Florida State. Florida State, in my opinion, will be a pretty good team this year. Definitely have talent. They bring in Mike Norvell as their head coach. Their quarterback is James Blackman. I think he could be good. They have Mike Norvell, of course, their head coach, used to be the head coach for Memphis, and he was so good when it comes to offense. Memphis was consistently scoring 30, even 40-plus points. So Florida State's offense should probably take a step up this year, and they have the pieces to get it done on defense as well. So Florida State, in my opinion, will be a good team. It's just the question, will they be able to compete with Miami in this one? And like the last 2 games, like Virginia, like North Carolina, this one could go either way. Miami is at home, but they're coming off 2 tough games. Florida State is still a good team. You could argue Florida State's even better than Miami. It's going to be an interesting one. This is a tough stretch for Miami, and we'll talk more about it in the next game as well. It's a tough stretch here. So currently, I think I'm going to go Miami, but I could see Florida State winning this one. And then Week 11, they have another very tough game, and I really don't think they'll win this one. It's against Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech is better than them. I think North Carolina is their toughest opponent of the season, but I think this is their toughest game of the season because Virginia Tech is at home. Maybe Miami can win because D'Eriq King's probably figured it out at this point, but in my opinion, Virginia Tech is just too good for Miami. Miami, if this was a home game for Miami, it could go to Miami. But just being a home game for Virginia Tech, I can't see Miami winning it. I'm not counting it out, but I feel like it's a lot more likely that Virginia Tech will win. Week 12, they play Georgia Tech. Now, Georgia Tech is a team not many people think will be great this year, and I don't think they'll be great either, but it will be a step up from last year, returning basically the entire team, and they had a pretty good recruiting class. So I think it will be a step up for Georgia Tech this year. I'm just not sure they're going to be able to contend with teams like Miami this season because they just weren't great last year. So it will be a step up, in my opinion, from Georgia Tech. But I don't know if they'll be able to compete with Miami. Maybe they can make it a game because Georgia Tech is at home. But I just don't think Georgia Tech has the pieces yet to beat a team like Miami. There's a very bright future for Georgia Tech, in my opinion. I just don't think this is their year. And then they ended off with an interesting game against Duke. Duke isn't terrible, but I really don't see Duke putting up a good fight against Miami in this one. Miami just is the better team, and Miami is the home team, so I think it should be a fairly easy win for Miami. Now, as I always do, I'll go through each game once again, and I'll give my prediction for who I think will win. First 3 games of the season, Temple, Wagner, and UAB. I think those are all wins for Miami. And Week 4 at Michigan State, I'm actually going to give them a loss here. They could win without a doubt. I would not be mad if you give them a win in this game. I just feel that it's going to be tough to beat Michigan State on the road. You know, they could win. They could definitely win. But at the moment, I'm going to hand them a loss at Michigan State. Week 5, I do have them beating Pitt. And then Week 6, I have them beating Wake Forest. Week 7, they have their bye. And then I think they'll lose to North Carolina. In my opinion, North Carolina is just too good of a team. Week 9 at Virginia. I'm going to give them a loss here just because they're on the road. They could win this one. But I'm going to give them a loss. Week 10 against Florida, I was thinking about giving a loss, but I am going to give them a win. I just think that they will be able to beat Florida State because they're at home. Week 11, I think they're going to lose to Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech is just too good in my opinion. Week 12, Georgia Tech, that's a win, I think, and against Duke, that's a win. So with all this said and done, I'm going to give them a record of 8-4 on the year. You know, they could definitely be better than this. So I do think that they will lose to North Carolina and Virginia Tech. I think best case for them is one loss because I do think they will lose one of those games. And I did give them a loss to Michigan State. They could win that game. And then I thought they were going to lose 4. I feel like they're going to lose 4 games this season, so I gave one loss to Michigan State. And then the 4th loss for me is really between Florida State and Virginia. I think they'll lose one of those games. If they're going to lose 4 games this season, those games will probably be North Carolina, Virginia Tech, probably Michigan State, I would say, and then either Virginia or Florida State. But they could beat Michigan State, they could beat Virginia, they could beat Florida State. So this is a team that could go 10-2 this year, maybe even 11-1 if they can upset North Carolina. Worst case, probably 6-6. I think they'll go to a bowl game, but you know, maybe they drop that game against Florida State. Maybe they lose to Pitt. Maybe they lose to Georgia Tech on the road. So worst case for me is 6-6. Best case is 11-1. So these are my thoughts. It's really not a tough schedule for Miami other than the North Carolina and Virginia Tech games, but there's not really anything you can do about those. They're lucky to have North Carolina at home. But yeah, these are my thoughts on Miami for the season. What are your guys' thoughts? Tell me in the comment section below. I love reading about your comments and hearing all your thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, and if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe for more daily NFL and college football content. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.